What's going on, friends? Very good evening and hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another live stream. It's now 11 p.m. in the evening here in Dubai, and I wasn't actually planning on doing one. So sorry for the short notice. I probably should have scheduled it earlier. Had a lot of other things going on for my new project that I'm launching very soon. But then again, I was about to go sleep and looked at the market one more time and just felt so excited. I don't know about you, but it's really fun, right? I mean, obviously I'm investing for the long term, but yeah, looking at those prices, whenever you open your portfolio, I mean, you just get excited. And I thought I'll just jump on here, quick update, market update, run through some numbers, share some thoughts with you. And then, as always, if we still have some questions, hopefully manage to go through some of them and answer your questions in here. So yeah, let's dive right in and have a look. I mean, as always, a lot of green in recent times, which is definitely very, very nice to see. Again, quick reminder, we are up almost 120% year to date, which is just mind-boggling. I mean, that number is really has to sink in. You know, I mean, when we talk about investing S&P 500, traditionally we speak about 8 to 10% year-on-year growth. Obviously, crypto is a rather new asset class, but it's just crazy numbers, and that's not even the highest. You know, when you go down some of the other coins that we see over here, Dogecoin up 350%, which is just crazy. I mean, I personally not investing myself in that, and personally still would not recommend anyone to invest in it, but if you had since the beginning of the year, you got some juicy returns over there. Well, one potential reason for that could actually be that you may have seen the news that Trump has basically appointed Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, if I pronounce his name correctly, to run the Doge Department of Government Efficiency. So yeah, Elon Musk, apart from running all the other various companies that he's already running, will also be in charge of yet another, this time not company, but actually governmental entity. As I understand, it won't be operating like for the entirety of the term of Trump's presidency. I think it's just a couple of months, but basically he's tasked with reducing the government spending, which is, to be fair, quite an interesting idea in a way. I think a lot of governments have been blown up so much over the years. So, well, I suppose he understands something about efficiency and lean operations. So let's see. I think it's a nice approach with Trump being quite the businessman. But will be interesting, obviously, with him now, Musk being out of Tesla, how that will impact the Tesla price shares. But so far, to be honest, it hasn't. If anything, it only further increased those prices. But yeah, if you go for year-to-date total return, you see also some other crazy coins there, which once again, I'm only investing into Bitcoin. I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. That's the real Bitcoin and currency I understand of all the cryptos. But yeah, you can see you can really make money with some of the other funny meme coins over here. Popcat up, I don't know how many 1,000%. Even Pepe, I thought that was already long been done, but still up like crazy percentage. But again, I want to focus obviously on the granddaddy of cryptocurrency, which is Bitcoin. And once again, a reminder why I like Bitcoin, because it has a hard market cap. You have to keep in mind, it has a max supply, 21 million Bitcoin. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. That's hard sort of coded into that blockchain protocol of Bitcoin, and that I like. Even if I go back and show you, for example, one second, go to Ethereum. It's different, right? There's the infinity, max supply. It's a bit like euros or dollars or Bitcoin or pounds. The governments keep on printing. Here, the creators, they could keep on issuing more and more Ethereum. And again, obviously it has done well over time and it has a lot of use cases and different use cases to Bitcoin. It's not directly competing with Bitcoin. But for me, I really like that deflationary aspect of Bitcoin, that it's going to be a hard cap. It's like one big pizza, right? But now you have more and more people wanting to eat the pizza. So each little piece of that pizza becomes more valuable versus some other coins. You literally just keep on baking more pizzas, right? So in the end, your little piece becomes meaningless. So that's just maybe a figurative way to better understand it. And overall, when we look at the prices, I mean, it's just crazy. It doesn't seem to stop. And when we see now in terms of total asset by market capitalization, we see that Bitcoin, I think when I did my last live stream last week, Bitcoin was still behind silver on 10th place. Now, Bitcoin is actually on 7th position, the 7th most valuable asset in the world. And yet we still, I personally think, have a long way to go. Again, gold at the top with 17.3 trillion. But yeah, definitely as the price of Bitcoin increases, as I just mentioned, the quantity of Bitcoins available will not change. And therefore, most likely, if it continues as it does, we should be climbing up that ladder even further. And honestly, I mean, if you asked me a few days ago, I would have said it's way overvalued. And obviously we see a lot of fear and greed. I mean, more greed than fear, if anything, in the markets. But right now, to be fair, anything could happen. Like literally, I'm not here to make price prediction or anything. But generally, I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to hit over 100K very soon, because there's so much enthusiasm, buying pressure, and limited supply, right? That's what basically makes a difference. And one thing I wanted to mention is also, I think what really stands out here is, an interesting story that I came across, which might also explain some of that recent buying spree. Obviously, we heard that Trump, before being elected, he went to different conventions, even Bitcoin conventions, spoke about that he really believes in longevity of Bitcoin and crypto in general, and he wants the US to really become a place where Bitcoin is mined and where the government actually holds on to the Bitcoin. Now, he didn't say he will actively buy more. In some other conversations, he did mention that, but if he really sticks to his word, it can be assumed that the US, which currently has the biggest crypto piles, Bitcoin piles in the world, will probably continue to add to it. And what does that mean? It will bring up the price. And very interestingly enough, I found an article here where it seems quite a few nations after the election of Trump started buying more Bitcoin to front run a potential US buying more Bitcoin, right? Because their logic is, okay, if the US, now with Trump being on board, is going to buy more Bitcoin, that will, once again, only drive the price up. So let's front run that, meaning we buy before the US starts buying, and obviously we get a better deal out of this. So again, we don't know 100% if that's going to happen, or if that's what is happening, but it seems, I believe they mentioned some of the countries over here. Yeah, first of all, just to see the top 5 countries right now holding Bitcoin, is still obviously leading the US. Even though I was surprised, China almost also has 200,000 Bitcoin in their ownership. Then the UK, and then Ukraine, what do you believe? Because obviously a lot of their coins came through donations. And then I was really stunned by Bhutan, like literally. I mean, I heard about El Salvador, and they were really early to adopting crypto and really turning a lot of their payments in through Bitcoin. But Bhutan, that's mind-boggling, right? And when you then see what the German government did recently with all their seized Bitcoin of selling it, they would be sitting on a treasure chest. But interesting to see nonetheless. But yeah, apparently some of those countries, even Saudi Arabia, is rumored to start buying up a lot of crypto right now. And sorry, when I say crypto, I actually mean Bitcoin, to invest once again before the US will jump on actively buying more and more. So we shall see. I don't know exactly, but that's definitely something plausible, which could be a driver behind the recent price hikes. And just remember of how we got to over 90K, which not so long ago, look, I mean, I said it before last time, I bought just in summer, I think the last time, like a bigger chunk of Bitcoin, it was around 50K, 54K, right? I mean, we almost doubled since then, and at the time when I bought, people said, you're crazy, it's way too expensive. But well, right now it seems just unstoppable. Now, naturally, it's gonna reset a little bit in price, but we're on a really good path here, so anything can happen. So just a quick reminder of how we got here, right? Not so long ago, it was, I don't know the exact date it shows you, but yeah, I think sometime of 23 or early 24, the first BlackRock or the first Bitcoin ETF was approved in the US, which was a good sign. Then we had Trump speaking at the Bitcoin conference. So that was the part of the conversation I just mentioned where he spoke about the stockpile that US should have of Bitcoin. And then obviously we had him at election day, right? And that was really when the frenzy kicked in and the major price movement. It was literally as soon as he was voted next day. And once again, I think it's kind of like a domino effect, right? As soon as he was confirmed to be the new leader and US president, all these other things which preceded that they really kind of multiplied almost, right? So, we previously spoke a lot about the halving and the impact of every 4 years, but I think now we're at the point where the halving has less and less of an impact. Majority of the Bitcoins are mined. It doesn't mean all the Bitcoins are mined. It's still not all 21 million, to be exact. Right now in total supply, you see, we have mined 19.78, but that's as a percentage, like I would call a majority of Bitcoin is already in circulation. And don't forget, a lot of the Bitcoin that is already in circulation, some of that will be lost forever, of people who bought it many, many years ago, had it on a hard drive, lost it somewhere. So it's actually technically the real tangible, in a way, if you want, Bitcoin in circulation, probably less than that number, I would even imagine. Right, what else do we have? Yeah, the market valuation. Obviously, Ethereum still, in general, just remind ourselves that a lot of the prices definitely follow Bitcoin, right? What Bitcoin does, the market acts accordingly. Just look at the market dominance. Last time I did it, I think it was at 54%. Now it's 60%. So all crypto value in the world together, of that, 60% is basically coming from Bitcoin alone. So it's a huge dominance, for better or for worse. But again, as a Bitcoin investor, I'm happy about that. But it just shows you that obviously it leads the pack, right? And in terms of market capitalization, you can see Ethereum is still very much a fraction that of Bitcoin. There's also a lot of open interest, which is growing, which is good on decentralized exchange, on exchanges, basically, centralized exchanges. So that's generally a good sign that there's going to be buying pressure, and that's good for the price going forward. We see here the spot ETF inflows. So once again, the Bitcoin ETF that was issued, and we see, of course, BlackRock being now the biggest Bitcoin ETF out there, had major inflows. That number is already outdated. I think it's from the 12th, because I believe it was even over 30 million. So really crazy numbers. While Grayscale, which was previously the first one, I believe, one of the first that actually offered it, even before BlackRock, they were obviously by then the biggest, because they were one of the very few that had the ability to invest into a Bitcoin ETF. The problem here, though, is they had crazy fees. I don't exactly remember how much, let it be 0.5% or even 1%. I don't remember the fees, to be honest, but way more expensive than, for example, BlackRock, which I believe in the beginning even waived their fees. So you just put your money, it's 0% management fees, and then after 6 months or so on, they started introducing a management fee on that ETF, which makes sense, right? I mean, this is not a charity foundation. On the contrary, BlackRock is there to make money. But yeah, it obviously works, right? The lower the fees, the better returns for the investors, and that got them attracted and people put their money in there. So yeah, really good. And here you see the BlackRock daily inflows, which just, once again, after the election, in one day, over $1 billion inflow. I mean, just crazy numbers. But well, we're not complaining about that. And also interesting, if you don't want to buy Bitcoin directly, right, you could also have, you could either invest through a Bitcoin ETF, or you can sort of invest in stocks or companies that have, in a way, Bitcoin or crypto exposure, such as Coinbase, right, one of the bigger crypto exchanges in the world, listed in the US stock market. So they naturally, obviously, go up and down with together the price of Bitcoin. You could say there's a certain correlation, not one-to-one, but there's a certain correlation, right? I mean, if Bitcoin tanks, naturally Coinbase will tank, because there's less activity, means less fees, means less revenue for them. Likewise, MicroStrategy by Michael Saylor, an amazing, well, you can call him now investor as well, founder of the company. And he really went all in on Bitcoin for his company, which used to be more a software company. It still is, but almost became like a Bitcoin company, if you want. And well, their returns really outperformed even that of Bitcoin, which is just incredible to see. So yeah, you can see a lot of positive sentiment. We spoke about last time also the Google search interest in Bitcoin. It's just, that's when I also get a bit more cautious, when I see something like that, because everybody jumps in it, right? While I'm excited myself, again, when the taxi driver tells you about Bitcoin, that's probably when it's a little bit too overheated. But then again, times are always different. And this time might be, once again, there's so many macroeconomic things coming together with the lowering of the interest rate, with the Trump presidency coming up. there's a lot of things going for it right now, and that's why, as I said, normally I'm very cautious, and when we hit like 86, 87, 88k, I was like, okay, that's almost too fast, too soon. But right now, as I said, anything can happen. I wouldn't be surprised if we hit the 100k before the end of the week. But again, we might also see a major correction, and that's something where you have to really think: are you a trader or are you an investor, right? If you're investing for long term, it's fun, it's entertaining. Like I look at it from the sideline. Of course, I get excited. I'm generally excited when I see these prices. I open my wallets, but at the same time, I'm totally fine. Well, I'm saying that, of course, I don't want it to drop, but I know it will drop. Like I generally know. And that's part of the investment journey, right? I've seen that before. I will see it again. But if you're trading, of course, you can trade that volatility, because that up and down that we see right now in the markets, naturally, that's a great way to make some money trading. But I just don't know which way it's gonna go, right? I mean, yes, there's two options. It can go up or it can go down. But which way, nobody knows. And I'm just not here to trade. I like to watch it on the sideline, keep on dollar cost averaging into it over time. And that's why I'm saying to a lot of people, it's funny enough, just last week, or when we started seeing the increase in prices, people asked me, well, Kai, is it too late to buy? And of course, when we were starting to hit 80k and so on, I said, well, right now you're buying at an all-time high, but to be fair, you might still make money if you dollar cost average into it. And guess what? Some people who actually spoke to me at the time, they started buying, and they're already up massively, right? Over 10%. So imagine you put 10,000 at the time, you now already $1,000, euros, whatever you put in the profit just over a span of a few days. So obviously I'm not saying to lump sum invest if you have all your money, or even sell your shares, your stocks that you have, and go all in on Bitcoin. Definitely, I don't think that's the smartest approach. But to dollar cost average, every single week, spread it out, smaller amounts over time, I think you're gonna benefit from average prices over time. What else do we have? Yeah, then we also had recently, today actually, the US inflation data, but I think it becomes less and less relevant. I mean, those percentages will go slightly up, slightly down, and they will say, we over expectations, under expectations. But generally, I think, it's sort of in control, it seems at least. It's not anymore as crazy as it used to be. You see over here the peak. So I think it has come down. Probably the Fed will do one more correction by the end of the year. I think in December there's another meeting where they might potentially lower it one more time. Once Trump comes to power, he also made a strong case for potentially lowering the interest rates even further going into his presidency. So again, I think that's only good for the markets and Bitcoin once again, because if you imagine you get 0% as you used to get, sorry, that's CPI, but we also used to get 0% interest at the bank. Well, then what do? You have to find some place to invest your money, and then people go to the different assets where they can invest, such as stocks, ETFs, and of course cryptocurrency, right? Where you get some return, at least more than what you could expect to get at the bank. Looking at the various indices and markets around the world, obviously US still very much enthusiasm going on over there. Pretty much all of them, that's for 1 week chart now, all of them in the green. Japan is up as well. I was, however, surprised that still in Europe, that enthusiasm and positivity hasn't really carried through. We see the Footsie 100 in the UK, the 100 biggest companies are slightly down, which is, I must say, rather surprising. And then also some other markets, right? Spanish market, IBEX is down 4%, which is quite astonishing. We have pretty much all the European markets in the red. Now, obviously, there is a lot of speculation that under Trump presidency, the relations between the US and Europe weren't exactly the best. So let's see how that plays out. I think slowly, from what I understand, a lot of the European presidents and counterparts are warming up, and they know whether you like them or not, you have to play along with the US. And they better start doing that soon, because look at it, across the board, literally all of it in the red, which is quite staggering when you see that pretty much all the other markets are up significantly. And to be fair, that's why I'm a European myself, even though right now I live in Dubai. But I'm from Europe. I of European heritage. I would love to invest more in the European markets. I just overall long term, I haven't seen them performing as well as the US has, right? And some people say, well, Kai, why you only invest in the US? It's already past its peak. And well, maybe, right? But it's still significantly better when I look at the performance and compare it to any of the European ones. Now, I did a video recently where I compared it to some Indian stock markets and indices and some emerging ones. And again, there might be some cases where those do potentially outperform the US, but that's a rather short time period, right? I'm talking about 30, 40, 50 years where the US has done very well. And still in 2024, where we are today, they continue to do so. And well, looking at the stocks and the companies they're having, I mean, they're still leading in terms of AI, technology, all these things are American companies, right? And they're operating on a global scale. That's why I'm confident investing in them. Yes, in a way, I'm concentrated in one country, but by nature, those companies are operating on a global scale, right? I mean, if Microsoft is having a great business in China, that will translate into higher stock prices. And of course, vice versa, right? If China is struggling for them, it will also translate here. But yeah, that's why for me, I'm really happy being in that way concentrated in the US, I suppose. What else? We can, let's do a little comparison here, some stocks versus Bitcoin to see how it's actually performing. All right, so let's do, for example, year to date, Bitcoin versus S&P. So Bitcoin up 101%, while the S&P is up only, I'm saying only, you also have to put things into perspective, right? Yes, versus the Bitcoin, it's obviously a fraction, it's a quarter of the returns, but still, it's year to date within, 11 months, up 26%. That's really not normal. And well, I mean, we should really actually appreciate such a crazy return because that's really not normal. But we happily take it. What else? Interestingly enough, gold. I'm not bashing gold, but I'm certainly not one who is inclined to buy gold anytime soon. But even gold, I mean, year to date, look at it, up 27%. Now, obviously, compared to Bitcoin, again, a little bit less, right? Oh, let's put to year to date. But still, yeah, 25% up. But that's impressive, right? If I add into this the S&P, what we just looked at, it's a slight difference. It's not a major outperformance here. 1 second, let me add that one. So you see, they're almost neck to neck. Now, granted, that's purely price. There is a slight dividend if I factor that in. Obviously, the S&P is still doing better. But yeah, I mean, kudos to all gold owners. I'm still not going to buy gold. I prefer digital gold, which is Bitcoin. But really, yeah, not bad. Now, of course, it remains to be seen, especially, the last few days now since Bitcoin picked up. Is that money flowing out of gold into Bitcoin, or is it just a different sentiment? So that remains to be seen, how that will develop under Trump presidency. If there's so much now push towards digital assets, and if Trump presidency makes, favorable Bitcoin and crypto policies and starts even having a Bitcoin stockpile, right? Instead of just gold in the bank that they used to keep in the central banks, they're now going to have Bitcoin, stockpiles in a way. Well, then I think eventually we might really start seeing a shift from gold and the market cap of 17 trillion. It will come down, and then obviously some of it will flow into Bitcoin and that will go up. So again, we don't know to what extent, but I think that's a really interesting chart to monitor going forward. And let's do one last one, of course, with Trump's buddy, good old Musk. How's Tesla doing? Well, not too shabby. But then again, it's always interesting also. We forget, Tesla, it's like such a, hate it or love it stock in a way, right? And then we see, oh my God, Tesla moved like crazy. And yes, this move here, the last few days, look at it. I mean, 5-day chart looks absolutely crazy, this gain, right? But on the year to date, I mean, it's marginally up versus, once again, if I add back the S&P, marginally up versus the S&P. So in that way, actually, it does a lot of noise, but then it also comes down quickly. So here you see the difference. It's really not as stark anymore. It's marginal difference between the two. So yeah, that's why for me, it's just way too speculative. I mean, I'm already quite speculative with my Bitcoin holding, which happens to be my biggest holding after my real estate. But also because of the gains over time. But for me, it's just too volatile. I'm sure some people who trade Tesla can really make money. Long term, again, remains to be seen. how the policies turn out in regulation, but I'm for one not gonna touch that stock. It's a little bit too hot for me, I would say. But if you are a holder, yes, the last few days have definitely been really rewarding, I suppose. Right, let's see if we have any questions over here. Who do we have joining in the call? Crypto Tanya, hi, welcome. Good to have you. We have Mike. Hi, Kai. What do you think will happen to Nexo after December with the MiCA regulations being enforced? What will happen to our USDT holdings? Yeah, good question. Look, I'm not 100% sure how that will turn out. They might have to potentially restrict certain countries but whatever will happen, I don't know. I don't want to speculate here, but I think whatever will happen, they will give you advance notice, right? And then it's up to you. I mean, you can either transfer your USDT, you can either switch into another currency if you wanted to, or turn it into Bitcoin, or turn it back into fiat money, or send it to another exchange which is maybe regulated elsewhere, which doesn't fall under the MiCA regulation. So I don't know right now, to be honest. I'm not that worried. I think we'll get enough advance notice before that will happen. So for the time being, I'll just see what happens, and I'm not too worried about it. I still have I actually sent quite some more USDT into my Nexo right now because 9.5% interest without lockup period is definitely very attractive. So I will stick with that for the time being. Kreuzritter, what strategy of investing in Bitcoin do you consider as the best? Just holding or active trading? If holding, how much time? Look, again, I know a lot of people, especially here in Dubai, right? You see all these guys on Instagram and YouTube, buy my crypto course. I'll show you how to trade Bitcoin and become the next millionaire. And while I personally think they probably make more money selling you the courses than they actually do with trading, I'm not saying you can't make money trading. You certainly can, right? If you time the entries and exits right, definitely can make money. It's just simple math. It's just for me, trying to read the charts. I just don't think, let's put it this way. If you read the charts, only look at the chart, and you would not, like in an imaginary hypothetical way, you wouldn't know about what's going on in the outside world, that Trump was just elected president. Then you try to analyze the charts and so on, and all of a sudden you see a major pump in the price and you don't know where it's coming from. Well, because of such a scenario. So I think it's just looking at those charts. Yes, certainly you can deduct certain analysis from it. But again, I'm really not an expert in it, and I don't believe much into that. But so if you're asking what's the easier way, I really think it's dollar cost averaging, buy Bitcoin every single month, every single week, whatever works best for you, small amount. And again, make it part of your investment strategy. Don't go all in. Right now, it seems like everybody said, oh my God, I want to sell everything and only invest in Bitcoin. Please don't. Yes, it's hot. Yes, it's exciting. Yes, it has a bright future. But there are also other asset classes, and they do give you other benefits, right? I mean, I have cash. You could say that's stupid to have cash. But yes, I'm getting a small return, literally no return on some of my cash that sits in the bank account. But at the same time, it gives me flexibility, right? If I have emergency in my real life, I can use that to pay a bill, right? If I had a Bitcoin and the Bitcoin price drops by 50% maybe next week, then I would be selling at a loss. So I think the best way is to dollar cost average into an asset that you believe in, which I personally do in Bitcoin. And if you do as well, then I think it's a great way and strategy going forward. Elias, hi, I have some cash on Trading212 and earning interest. Do you see ECB lower the interest rate even more? And what do you think about the target ECB will be 2.5% interest in Q2 25? I haven't heard about their target for next year. Maybe they've mentioned that somewhere, but certainly I think it will continue to drop. I would be surprised if it didn't. I don't know when exactly, but the next few months we will most certainly see a continuation of the drop of the interest rates. And that's why I'm already actively looking what else I can do with my money. Because if I get 2% interest with my brokers or bank, it's better than nothing, sure, but it's still sort of almost losing more to inflation. And that's why I'm such a big fan right now to have at least some of my funds on exchanges in USDT, such as Nexo. There are other exchanges as well. It just happens to pay one of the highest interests. But once again, as I just said before, I wouldn't put all my money and all my cash into USDT in one platform because it's a huge risk, right? I have the USDT risk, the stablecoin risk, I have the platform risk. So I have some of it to get a high interest, but still, even if it drops eventually to 0%, I'm still gonna always have some cash sitting on the sidelines because you never know, right? That's your emergency fund for whatever may happen, right? So yeah, I would still suggest you to have a sort of diversified strategy. Really don't go all in one thing. Yes, it's sad that the rates are coming down. I also used to enjoy a nice high interest, but that I think it will happen sooner than later. And by next year, certainly we'll see lower rates, which by the way is also maybe a good time in case you've been considering to buy real estate because mortgage rates, the financing of it will also come down, right? So your monthly payments will be cheaper. So it's always a double-edged sword. Sometimes you lose some, sometimes you win some. Do you think it's rational to put a considerable amount of cash, not all of it, into nevertheless strategy investment, or is it too risky? I am ready to withdraw everything as soon as I see another. Look, I mean, I used to obviously use Neverless. It's sort of similar to Nexo, in a way a competitor. They pay nice high interest on your crypto and even your stable coins. It's just, well, there was a couple of things that I didn't really like after I've done the video. Unfortunately, I only discovered them. Plus the fact that they are still fairly new. Right now, in general, in the bull market, I think, while I'm not a big fan of keeping too much money on an exchange, because the saying is not your key is not your crypto, which is very much true, because you're basically giving all the access to your money to that exchange and hope that they will do well and not lose your keys or do whatever they have to. So there is a risk, but of course, while we're in a strong bull market, for me at least, the risk is less than if we go down into a bear market, prices are dropping, a lot of exchanges will struggle because they don't have the revenue anymore, people pulling their funds, and they will start struggling. And then, of course, you want to pull your funds. So for the time being, again, you may want to have some money sitting there, some exposure to it, because the interest definitely is very attractive, right? That's why I was so attracted to it in the first place. So yeah, definitely. Why not try it out? If you like the platform overall, great. Maybe you want to still have an exposure also to Nexo or to some other platform that pays high interest, and then just once again diversify. Yeah, I wouldn't go too crazy all in on one platform. Obviously, I do have a big exposure right now to Nexo. Actually considering to become a private client. I'm in touch with them. I will hopefully make a video on this if I do decide to come. That'd be cool. But yeah, definitely always don't go all in and diversify your funds as much as possible. Marek is asking, hi Kai, which platform do you recommend to buy Bitcoin? Is it efficient to buy on Revolut? Thanks. Stay healthy, get wealthy. Great question, Marek. Funnily enough, today actually, I will just show you this one. Today, somebody sent me inside the Smart Money Club, which by the way, you should check out, that Revolut came up with a new, let me refresh this page, a new crypto exchange for pros in a way, which sounds really interesting. So I'm going to definitely do a deep dive into this and probably do a video on that. But yeah, they call it advanced trading, 0% maker fees, 0.09% taker fees. So that's usually what you would be, the fees you'll be paying, which is really tiny. I mean, on many exchanges, it's 0.5% or 0.4%. So if you trade a lot, that's really attractive. And of course, with the ease of use of having your money already on Revolut, that can make it potentially really quite attractive. Now, they haven't said much about interest rates. Seamlessly switch from fiat to crypto, back again. So Revolut X, definitely something I will be looking into. And if it's available for me to open an account, I will give it a go. But yeah, I was quite surprised to see that they're getting more and more into the crypto game. Of course, why do they do that? Because it's very profitable, right? They see where the demand is, and it is going more and more into crypto. So they want to get part of the pie. And but I'm happy to see that. Generally, I'm a Revolut user and lover of the platform. Not so much in the past for stocks and crypto. But look, I mean, it's been a while since I reviewed them, and maybe potentially that could be something interesting. So I will definitely look into it and we'll see how they develop. But other than that, right now I'm buying myself On Nexo, as I said, it's maybe not the super cheapest. You can also use it on Nexo Pro. That is a bit cheaper. It's funny, usually those exchanges, the more difficult the interface is, the cheaper the price is, and the more simpler it is. Usually you pay a higher price for that. It's kind of unfair, but this is what it is. Another exchange that I started using is OKX. OKX is, I think, the third or fourth biggest exchange in the world. It's actually interesting. You can, in case you want to check out some of the exchanges, you can go to CoinMarketCap over here. It's a really cool website. Everything you need to know about crypto, what's happening. And there's a button over here for exchanges, and then you can either check for derivatives, which is kind of trading, or spot. But let's go into spot. And here you see basically the biggest exchanges. So you can just get an idea of what are the names out there. Obviously, Binance, in terms of trading volume, I think it's filtered by trading volume, is the biggest in the world by far, actually. Then you have Bybit, Coinbase Exchange, and then OKX. Even though they sponsor McLaren F1 team, which I'm not a fan of, but be it as it may, it is really good, especially if you're based in the UAE, because you can actually deposit dirham. They're registered in the UAE. So for me, it's very easy. I can deposit my dirham and immediately convert it to USDT. And then what I'm doing right now, so that's basically what I'm doing. I'm sending my dirhams into there, convert it to USDT, and from there send it to Nexo to get some nice interest. So that's the way I do it. But any of those, I think, top 10 exchanges, I wouldn't go any of the lower ones over here. Because obviously they have less volume, therefore usually also the price is more expensive. And yeah, I just want to have, I would prefer to have a bigger player, because you're going to be in probably better hands over there, right? So hope that answers the question. And same to you, stay healthy, get wealthy. Right, what else do we have? Why did you move to Dubai? Is Europe bad for living, working, investing? Well, I mean, to be fair, I used to live in Dubai, actually. I did my university here. I studied hospitality management and business in Dubai. And then also left, started working somewhere else, and then came back again to work another 3.5 years here. I was running a luxury hotel in the UAE, not in Dubai, but Ajman is another emirate. And so I always had a connection. In total, I lived 7 years here, which is outside of Germany, probably the country I lived the most, together with Lithuania. So now that I left my corporate career, and my wife can also work from anywhere, once you have your own business, then of course, Dubai has a lot of reasons why it makes it very conducive to start a business, let's say, right? The tax advantages you get here, but not only the tax. Some people say it's only about the tax. No, it's not. I mean, yes, it's a huge benefit, but recently I did a consultation with someone who lived, I believe, in Serbia. I always confuse these countries, Serbia or Slovakia. They had 0% capital gains tax, if I'm not mistaken. So I was like, wow, that's very impressive. So, taxation you could get in many other countries, but it's also the lifestyle overall, the safety aspect is, you can't imagine. I mean, it's not like I was constantly being robbed in Europe, right? But, you open the news, you constantly hear about bad things happening. And honestly, the last thing I want to worry about is when I go down, am I going to, come back alive or not? And it's getting worse and worse, right? And so a lot of these things I really appreciate here. And probably most importantly is the people you meet and the mindset they have here. People are really, you don't talk much about politics, right? Because it's nothing you can control. You just kind of accommodate yourself and live with it, but you focus on the things you can control, and you focus on business, how to make money. And for me, I like that, right? Because it's inspiring. You always meet people where you look up to them. When you think you're doing kind of okay in life, and you look to them, you're like, oh my goodness, that's like a whole nother level. And I find it inspiring. And there's also a lack of envy, right? In Europe, when you come with a fancy watch, like I don't wear watches, but let's say, but still, right? Even if you come with a Ferrari, people look at you and say, what a show off, who's this poser? And here it's like, man, cool car. What did you do to get there, right? So it's a different shift of perspective. And I like that. Not everybody does, and that's also cool, right? The whole world can't live in Dubai or UAE, but for those who do, it's definitely nice. Now, Yeah, so again, I'm not saying Europe is bad. I love Europe. I'm from Europe and I will keep on living there. In summers, we're going to spend time there. I still think it has a lot of investment potential, and technically you can do the same or similar investments from Europe. You can invest into the US, you can buy crypto. But of course, some of the regulation that is coming up, it's very limiting, I think, especially when we look at AI, right? Here I already have the new Apple AI on the iPhone. I can use the ChatGPT voice mode, all these things. And when I shared it online and asked my friends, how do you like it? How do you like it? They said, well, it's banned in Europe because it's too advanced AI. And these things, I think, is really painful to see, because I think we're really falling more and more behind. And that's why when I just showed before, the stock markets in Europe, they're just not keeping up, because the money is not flowing there. The money is flowing where it's innovation and potential, and right now, unfortunately, it's not happening in Europe. Now, it's still gonna grow and do well, right? We're not like falling way behind, but definitely not at the same pace that the US. And also, let's look to the east. Let's look at China. Let's look at Indonesia. All those countries are thriving. India. So there's big competition out there, and I really hope that the European counterparts will wake up more. But yeah, let's see how it goes. James, what's your opinion on Revolut X? Now it's available in Europe. It's worth looking to say. Yeah, so I just talked about it, James. Really, only today I learned about it. So thanks for bringing it up as well. I will definitely look into this the coming days. Probably make a video about this, because I think it's quite an interesting topic for a lot of users. And yeah, so I will definitely look into this for sure. Daniel, I have a question about Bitcoin. The utilities in UAE are expensive, very much. Well, actually, yeah, relative, but in general, yes. Also, do they offer great internet speed? Also, do they offer flexible packages for 6 months, for example? Well, first of all, generally, I would say it's actually cheaper. Like when I get my utility bill here for the apartment we're living in, it was funny because we rented the apartment, we paid 1 year in advance, then we were spending the whole summer in Europe. So I still got the monthly bills. I thought, well, it must be zero, right? But the first time I got it, I was shocked because it was like 200 euros. I said, I didn't even stay there. Like there was no water consumption, no electricity. And in fact, I didn't pay anything for that. It was only land fee. So that's in a way their way of taxing you. It's basically a percentage of the apartment value times times the size of the apartment. So yeah, that you can't get around. That's what you have to pay anyways. On top of it, what I pay for electricity and water, to be honest, it's actually really, well, it's hard to say because obviously I might potentially use more here with, AC, for example, is covered in our complex by the landlord, so I have nothing to do with that. If I had to pay for AC, that would be very expensive because that's running constantly in all rooms. But water and electricity, I think, to be honest, I don't know exactly, but I would generally think it's cheaper or less than what we paid for in Europe. And internet speeds, I mean, really nothing to worry here. Like, I think we have like 1 GB speed at home. It's not cheap, right? We're paying like 100 euros a month just for internet on my phone. I have unlimited 4G. And I pay, I think, 90 euros a month. In Lithuania, I had unlimited 5G and paid 20 euros a month. So yeah, you see, certain things are more expensive. Others are less expensive. For example, the watermelon, just before the call, I ordered watermelon to the apartment, nicely chopped, fresh, and it was less than €1. So, it's interesting how the pricing works here. But yeah, in general, utilities are not that expensive, I would say. Everyone talks about S&P 500. What do you think about the Footsie 100, DAX, Nikkei? Yeah, look, I mean, they talk about it for a reason, right? Because it is the market benchmark, and I think rightfully so, right? All the other indices that you mentioned, they just underperformed over a long time period, and I personally want to invest my money into a top performing asset. Now, again, the past is not a predictor for the future, but we just looked at the European stocks so far, and we've seen that Footsie 100 also is in the red, while all the US stocks are in the green. Now, that's obviously 1 week snapshot, but long term, just look at the companies and the innovation out of those countries. In Germany, what company right now is like pushing ahead and leading in world innovation, tech, AI, all these fields that matter? I don't know, right? So do I think that the DAX will outperform as a percentage the S&P 500, where you talk about companies like Microsoft, Apple, Tesla, Nvidia? I generally don't think so, right? Again, anything can happen in the future, but if I had to choose, I would stick with the S&P, which I'm doing. Kim Albrecht, Smart Money Love is great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Kim has been a member from the beginning, which is much appreciated. And yeah, thanks for the shout out, Kim. Appreciate it. James, they pinged everyone yesterday in the app. Okay, interesting. I should open my Revolut app. Now that I'm living in Dubai, I'm not using my Revolut app that much anymore, so I will check it right after the call. Appreciate that. He doesn't like that they don't give any perks for plan holders, but the claim to standalone exchange. Yeah, that's interesting that they have a separate, it seems like a separate app to the regular Revolut app, which I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. Sometimes it's good because you don't want to overwhelm the app experience for beginners who, let's say, not interested, right? A lot of people, even with all this craziness in the markets, recently I did a sort of a poll on Instagram, and a lot of people said Bitcoin is still useless, it's a scam. And I think those people get less and less over time, but there's still a lot of people who are critical of that. And I get it, right? I'm really not here to convince anyone to spend their money on Bitcoin. You should only invest into things that you generally understand and see long-term potential. And if you don't like Bitcoin, that's totally fine. So what I'm saying is, if you use the Revolut app and they constantly push you to open a pro trading account on X, what have you, that can be a little bit irritating for some. So in that way, it's good that they have a standalone app. On the other hand, of course, there's a bit more friction, right? It's yet another app that you need to download and so forth. So, but I agree with you, they should reward members, right? If I'm on the Ultra plan, which I am, of course, I would like to see maybe higher interest on my crypto. I think that would be very smart if they would start offering like Nexo, a similar tier level, but instead of having, let's say, Revolut token, you would get higher interest on your Bitcoin or any crypto that you stake or lend over there, depending on your plan. I think that would be a very smart move, and that would get a lot of people to upgrade to a higher plan potentially. So yeah, interesting the idea. What else? I think we're slowly coming up to midnight, guys, so I will slowly wrap things up. Mike asked, you mentioned in the video your wife was going to move her portfolio from Trade Republic to Interactive Brokers. Well, to be fair, that's a good reminder. I still have to do that. I haven't done that actually yet. So we still have until Christmas, until they're going to close our accounts. My money is already moved out. I didn't have stocks there, but for her it's still missing. So yeah, I will still have to do that, and I'll update you guys how it goes. Odi, thank you very much. Also recommend Smart Money Club. Appreciate that. I mean, I should probably talk more about it, but I'm not a very good sales guy. I just like organically having people join. So that's appreciated. The shout out over there. Buzilo, what do you think about Chinese stocks after Trump has been elected? Well, for me, it doesn't make a difference. I didn't like them particularly before, and I haven't changed my mind. I used to live in China for 2 years. I know the country a little bit. My dog is a little bit struggling here. My financial advisor. Say hi to the camera. Little Nutella. So it's our sleeping time as well. Normally she's in bed by now. But yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea how it will play out, because obviously with the potential tariffs, his favorite word, being slapped on a lot of Chinese companies, they would obviously suffer, right? On the other hand, eventually, I think the US will wake up, and I think even Trump will wake up, because tariffs is not the answer. It's not that simple, because that will make everything more expensive for US citizens, right? Because then they won't have cheap Chinese goods anymore. Yes, they will buy US goods, but they will be much more expensive. So I think it's not going to be a blanket tariff on everything from China. Eventually, when we look at China, what's coming out of there, the innovation, especially in AI and so forth, they're really doing good stuff, I must say. But would I personally invest into them? No, because we've seen, with people like Jack Ma, Alibaba, if they get too powerful, too influential, all of a sudden things change overnight. Things get, sort of reshuffled. The government takes bigger control, and there can't be ever anyone more powerful than the government. So yeah, that's why I personally wouldn't put my money on there. But can you make money putting some money into Chinese stocks? Absolutely. It's just not for me. Analysts believe the dollar will rise compared to euro to at least 25, maybe 26 too. Do you think it's better to earn in dollars on Train to earn from the... Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, right? Because if you live in Europe and you put your euros on, let's say, Trading 212 or some other exchanges, brokers like Lightyear also still pays good interest. Of course, it's tempting to convert it to dollars and benefit from high interest rates, because right now the Fed still has higher interest rates than the ECB. It makes sense, even though with a small conversion fee. I think that's not the problem. The problem is, potentially could be if, I mean, experts are saying it will rise, but nobody knows what the future will bring. Same how we don't know the prices for Bitcoin and stocks. We don't know the FX conversion between euros and dollars. So imagine next year you need the money for an emergency, or you want to have your down payment for the house. And by then the dollar drop versus the euro, which I personally also think is unlikely, but it can happen. We've seen that before. And then you're technically taking a loss. So what you gained in incremental interest from high interest, you're actually losing out on unfavorable exchange rates. So for me, it's not worth the risk. So unless you're really you don't need the money anytime soon and you just want to keep it there, it's really like your emergency fund, but really far out emergency or down payment for a house that you want to buy in 5 years, then I think it makes sense. But if it's, I don't know, like a 1 month of living expenses that you may need sooner than later, then probably it might be a bit too risky to take the exchange rate into consideration. Good, Mike, my pleasure. And on that note, we're coming up on the hour. I appreciate you for dialing in. It's also later in Europe. I think we have some from US also watching. So good morning to you guys. I always enjoy these live streams, and hopefully we'll do more regularly them, at least once a week, ideally twice, Mondays and Wednesday. I think it works well. I'm still experimenting with the time. I think the later the better, because then in Europe, UK, they can also watch better. It's not during work time. So yeah, hope it was useful for you. And see you next time. I will do tomorrow another video. So probably next live stream will be next Monday. So with this, thanks for watching. Stay healthy, get wealthy, and I'll see you very soon. Ciao guys. Bye bye.